What is your definition of a clique?
Or a clique?
A clique. The Corleone is a clique.
Okay, what is my definition of a clique?
Yeah.
The human race is my clique. It's one family. We're all cousins.
And the winner is Francis Ford Coppola.
Francis Ford Coppola.
Francis Ford Coppola.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag. Ooh, they're red, white, and blue.
I find that all the films I work on always seem to be the way my life is at that time.
It ain't me. It ain't me. I ain't no fortunate one. No. Some folks are born.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Lord, don't they help themselves, dog. But when the tax man comes to the door, Lord, the house looking like a rummage sale, yes.
You know, making a movie is like running on a railroad track away from a locomotive coming at you. You cannot trip. You cannot fall. You're dead.
Don't get involved in this, Mr. Cole.
This is the end, beautiful friend. This is the end, my only friend, the end.
Cinema is the most potent force in modern times.
Of everything that stands the end.
Hi, Mr. Coppola.
Hello.
First of all, I have to tell you how much I'm thrilled and happy and honored to be in front of you.
Well, that's no reason to do that, but thank you. You're very kind.
Yeah. How can you be, at the same time, what I consider as the greatest director of all time and an outsider?
Oh, an outsider. Well, I don't know how much an outsider I am. We are all outsiders, all of us, human beings living in our own universe in a way. You know, I had the benefit of not having a very good education, so I was always feeling not equal to everyone else, you know, and I was paralyzed as a child, so I had polio, so I was kept very much to myself, and this gave me a peculiar life experience. So, you know, I don't feel so terribly important. I don't feel so terribly accomplished. I certainly am not the greatest filmmaker of all time. I like to think of myself I'm a second-rate director, but I'm a first-rate, second-rate director. But that's only respect for the giants who came before us, you know, the wonderful people who created the cinema and whose influence we so valued. Much as you value those people who came before you, I too had those people that I valued. And it's hard for me to think of myself as being anything more than someone who had the desire to make cinema and to do theater and to do all of these wonderful things. So in terms of my personal attitude towards myself, it's like it's been an interesting show that I've been part of.
When does an empire die? Does it collapse in one terrible moment? No. But there comes a time when its people no longer believe in it.
Don't let the now destroy the forever.
Ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, welcome.
Megalopolis took 40 years to exist. And The amazing thing about that movie is that every time I think about it, I think about new things, new things, new things, new things. So for a movie you took 40 years to make and to exist, how long will it take to understand it fully?
Well, you know, first of all, there are a lot of things said about the film and about me that are not really true. It's not true that I was writing it for 40 years. What it was, as you know, I made a number of different films in my career, and what's interesting about them is that they were always in a different style. The Godfather film, which I'm most known for, was very classic style. And then I went to do Apocalypse Now, which was a very free kind of a style. And then I made One from the Heart, which was a very theatrical style. So I always tried to make the movie in the style of its theme. And then I thought, gee, someday when I'm older, I wonder if I will know what is my style. So I began to keep notebooks and scrapbooks and clippings from newspapers and also notes and excerpts of things I was reading. And I saw it was more like a scrapbook. And every year I would contribute to this. And I knew that someday it would be maybe the basis of some movie I would make. But only, I don't know, maybe 15 or 18 years ago did I really start to try to choose one of the subjects, which was in fact a Roman epic. I thought it would be fun to make a Roman epic. And then it would be even more interesting to make a Roman epic set in modern America, which had been made in the vision of Rome. And so only in, you know, the recent decade or so was I really trying to write something. All that time before was really just collect, which is a good idea for any young person, to just collect a journal or notebooks or, you know, things that are interesting to you. And only then did I really start to work on this project. You know, I didn't know if I'd ever get to make it or not. And then, of course, later I decided I wanted to try to make it. And so I began, and that was right around when the 9/11 tragedy happened in America. And then it didn't seem like a project in a world that now was going to suffer from terrorism and terrible acts of being perpetrated one on another. And so I abandoned it, and then only later did I unabandon it and then actually try to make it. So it is an interesting history of how I came to do it, but it wasn't something I was writing for 40 years, I've heard it referred to as a passion project. And I find that the strangest phrase, because all art is passion, you know. I mean, even when you make a movie that you've been hired to do, when you come down to making the movie, you try to be passionate about it. So I find that a very odd phrase, because I think anyone who makes cinema is doing passion project. I mean, otherwise it can't be of much value.
When I see Megalopolis, I see like a tragedy with the greatest fight, which is art versus industry. It's how, when you have a vision, when you want to express art, make life better for the people, how can you be crushed by the industry and by the interest of other people with other issues?
Well, you know, we human beings have our species, and we are one family, really. And we've only existed about 200,000 or 300,000 years, so we're recent, and we're also extraordinary. I mean, you don't hear people say it much, but when you think about what we can do, we human beings, our family, what we can do, it's amazing, our capability. Yet you never hear that. You always say, oh, those people are bad, and those people are bad, and those people are good. We're good, and they're bad, but all human beings are extraordinary and all have wonderful gifts that we can use. And I've always felt that, and I wanted to make a film that expressed that even though we may live in difficult times, as I suppose everybody in every era says we live in difficult times, you know, But our capability of dealing with whatever the challenges and problems are totally given. We can accomplish solving the problems, and that's one of the things I've always wanted to express in a film, which I have tried to express in this film.
Is this society, is this way we're living, the only one that's available to us?
We are taking our city back.
And when we ask these questions, when there's a dialogue about them, that basically is a utopia.
To you, opinion, when you watch the news, what are the greatest problems that humanity has to be faced, has to fight?
Well, it seems to me, just looking at it, is that the human race is committing suicide in front of our eyes, that we are fighting, well, you could say all wars don't make any sense whatsoever, but today it is so odd that we're struggling when we should be struggling to make the world better for each other, which we're capable of doing. So I think, now the difficulties seem not only worrisome, but they're unnecessary. Why is it necessary for there to be such enmity throughout the world? Why would we be fighting with the Russians when we love Russian culture, we love Russian science, we love Russian art, and they love ours? Why don't we work together to produce nuclear fusion, which their scientists are so capable of? In other words, I don't understand why we persist in disliking each other when we're all one family, and we have the genius to accomplish anything we might want to do if we just see it that way. And maybe that's why a film or all art is meant to throw light on the subject, to illuminate the subject. And I'm now a great-grandfather, so I think of what kind of world am I going to leave for the children? The children who don't even have a say, they don't even get to have their opinion, and yet they're going to inherit the mess that we're making for them. So those are some of the things that run through my mind.
There is a sentence I never forget in Megalopolis, is that line, they are citizens, they believe in vote. I think that line is crazy, because it says all about what the democracy isn't or should be.
Well, clearly, we created a republic by copying the Romans. The Romans, as you know, and everyone should learn as much as they can about Roman history, because so much of our lives today was already examined at that time. The Romans didn't want a king, so they created this thing called a republic with a Senate and all of these forms, so they could govern themselves without a king. And America didn't want a king because they had the English king, and so they decided to make a government that was like the Roman and have a Senate and what have you. And ironically, just as Rome lost its republic with the advent of Julius Caesar and his death, and then the ultimate wars, and then Augustus Caesar becoming, in a sense, a new king, the same thing is happening today. And ironically, to make a story about America as Rome is not such a nutty idea as it was 15 years ago, because it's happening in front of our eyes. And that's what's at stake. So democracy seems to be losing in the world today. And yet we all would say, well, that's a good thing, that people should be governed by themselves out of consensus. And I believe that if you were to look at the entire human existence, which, as I said, is about 300,000 years, I would guess that 75% of the time we were governed in a egalitarian, democratic way, with men and women together, and led in many cases by women, making decisions that, well, how can we be sure that there'll be water? How can we be sure there'll be food? How can we be sure And this was arrived at in a very democratic way for most of human history. Now, there are people who will argue with that, but of course, human history's only been written down 6, 7, at most 10,000 years. So we don't really know what happened in those first 290,000 years other than common sense in, anthropology and understanding what came before. But that's the belief that we naturally live in a sort of democratic, egalitarian, no king, no upper class and lower class people, men and women together governing. And I believe that. There's also literature and books you can read about such a thing. In particular, a writer named David Graeber, who wrote The Dawn of Everything, which is a book I found very exciting.
The Dawn of Everything.
The Dawn of Everything.
Is it the dawn of America?
No, the dawn of everything is not the dawn of America. I love America because I was Italian, family of Italian immigrants, and we came to this new world and we were given opportunities. So there's much that's good about America, but there has also been much that was not good about America. The cell phone, for example. No, I am thinking of beyond nationalities. I'm thinking of one human family, one Earth, one family of really genius people, where every baby is valuable. That could be a new Archimedes or a new Galileo or a new Einstein or a new Stephen Hawking. That we have that potential. It's a wonderful potential. It's a very hopeful thought, and it's something that I truly believe.
I'm French from Algeria, in Muslim culture, and for many years, for us, you were one of the only personality who were giving strength to the Muslim culture. And it was very touching for us, because you were talking about the Quran.
But you like Pontecorvo.
Yeah.
You like Guido Pontecorvo in The Battle for Algiers. Yeah. That's a great film.
La Bataille d'Alger. Yeah, it's a classic movie. It was forbidden in France.
Really? It's a great film.
How did you discover that culture?
From Algeria?
Yeah, or the Muslim culture.
Through cinema.
Yeah.
I learned everything from cinema. That's how I understand people. And then as I became older, reading. I found that reading is the best bedside companion you can have. A book waiting for you, which is how I am able to fall asleep by changing whatever my mind is thinking about, changing into something else, which then becomes very relevant to me.
And you said that reading the Quran for you was a message of peace.
Whatever book I'm reading gives me some insight about what. It's funny, I pick a book that's very different from anything I'm working on, and yet whenever I read it, I discover things for what I'm working on, which tells you that it's your mind that is what is directing things.
When I watch Megalopolis, every time I have flashback, and I was listening to music which is not in the movie. I was listening to Marvin Gaye, What's Going On. And this is the question that I always ask when I see that movie. What's going on in our times, in our era between humans? I have to ask you that question. What's going on?
Well, I love it that people see a movie more than once and get more out of it. I think Apocalypse Now is that kind of film that you can see it again later and get something more out of it. I think Megalopolis is the same way. It says what it says, but if you see it a second time, it says more. And if you see it, that it changes with you, and there's more in it for you if you want to see it again. And how you do that, I have no idea. I guess the fact that I don't make films for a market or for an idea of what could be successful. I don't care what's successful. I care more what interests me and what would please me to spend my time doing.
And time is the subject, one of the subjects of the movie. And eternity for the artist is a subject for the movie. And do you think that Francis Ford Coppola is a name who will stay in eternity?
I don't think so.
I think.
Well, you know, it's hard to say. You know, if you look into the future, which I do, it's hard to say what we will even be like. I would love to see the film of my grandchildren, and because I know that they will be doing things that we're not doing now. I wonder about the future, and I wonder about the past, you know. We can go back. I have an idea that you're able to go back maybe 300 or 400 years, and then any time before that would be difficult to grasp. You know, 400 years from now is about Shakespeare's time. And of course, going forward, you don't have to go 400 years because 100 years will be like 400 years. And I don't think we will be able to quite grasp those future lives. But there is a human tradition that's passed on from generation to generation that is wonderful. And I believe that will be passed on. And I see a very hopeful future, a very positive future. But many people are very discouraged today, I think. And based on what's happening in the world, I understand why.
I never wanted this for you. I worked my whole life. I don't apologize to take care of my family. And I refused to be a fool. Dancing on the string held by all those big shots. I don't apologize, that's my life, but I thought that when it was your time that you would be the one to hold the strings. Senator Corleone. Governor Corleone, something.
Another pezzo 90.
Oh. This wasn't enough time, Michael. Wasn't enough time.
We'll get there, Pop. We'll get there.
Can you give us an advice to our generation to stay optimist?
Well, first thing to do is that the purpose of art is to illuminate life, that the reason we do art is you know, not to be in a business or to make money or to, you know, be popular or whatever the reason. It's to shine light on contemporary life. And to do that, you know, every person you are 1,000,000 to 1 shot, that your mother and your father decided to come together to produce you, so you are unique, as is everyone. And what that means to me is if you're unique, let your art, let your work be unique. Don't make it personal. I told my children that, and of course they're filmmakers now, but you know, let all your art be as personal as you can make, because then it will be unlike anyone else's. And that's my advice to to young people is do what you love, and if you do art, make it personal.
Você è stato sempre buono con me da quando ero picciriccio. E mi era Valencia ero come un bacio. E io la ringrazio. E io come scordo.
Vito!
No.
Portici chi sta tuo figlio.
Ringrazio lo stesso.
Per favore, Vito.
Ringrazio lo stesso, ma non posso accettare.
E per tua famiglia.
Non ci cade i capelli.
Per favore, Vito.
No.
Bel da bere.
You are a son of immigration, and how did you felt when you made your community, the Italo-American community, cool after The Godfather?
Movies, motion pictures have had gangster pictures, so to speak, from the early days. And one thing I was reading about Paul Muni, the actor who played in the original Scarface, is he said he noticed that the real gangsters tend to copy the movie gangsters. And I know that's true of The Godfather, that there are these criminal gangsters, and they like films like The Godfather because it gives them the identity they can copy. I thought that was very unusual because I know it's true of The Godfather.
But you changed the perception of your community because it's not a gangster movie.
No.
It's a family movie.
Well, you know, I'm convinced that one of the reasons The Godfather was successful is because it was the first gangster movie that showed they had children. And there were children running all around The Godfather, which was unusual for a gangster picture. But, you know, I'm not too proud that The Godfather sort of glorified murderers. That's not something to be proud of.
Yeah, but there is a morality. When you see the character like Connie, it's a character that people don't talk about, but there is a great morality with Connie.
Well, I think there are characters within that movie that have morality, but, you know, of course, Godfather was something I did very young. I was like your age, or I was 29, and I was broke. I had children. I had no money. You know, once I actually started to do it, as with all movies, it becomes a passion project. Even if you do it originally for money, you begin to try to find something to love about it. And I found in that picture whatever I may have found. But, you know, I have no illusions that it was about killers, which is not something that I respect.
You know, this show is called Clique, and you made...
He's unimportant. Don't pay attention to him. I really shouldn't even be doing this at this time. I'm jet-lagged, exhausted.
Okay.
You're a nice person, so I'll answer 2 questions. Okay.
This show is called Clique, and your cinema is about clique, families. What is your definition of a clique?
Or a clique?
A clique. The Corleone is a clique.
Okay, what is my definition of a clique?
Yeah.
The human race is my clique. It's one family. We're all cousins.
And tell me about your socks before you leave.
Oh, that's a long story of how that happened. How can I do it fast? Well, years ago, I wanted to have a Hawaiian shirt. So I asked someone, how can I buy a Hawaiian shirt? And I was told, well, you can't buy, they don't make them anymore, Hawaiian shirts. But one of the ladies who was a costume person said, I can get the fabric, and I'll make you some cotton shirts out of the real, authentic fabric. So I had Hawaiian shirts, and I would go around, and everyone would call those Coppola shirts. When I went to Brazil, oh, he's wearing a Coppola shirt, which of course was only because I was wearing it. So my kids said to me, oh yeah, you invented everything. You invented Hawaiian shirts. They were always Hawaiian shirts. I said, I'll tell you what. I'll start wearing socks of 2 different colors, and I bet you in a few years it will be a style. And so I started to wear socks of 2 different. I mean, who says you have to wear the same color socks? No one says that, so that's why I did it.
Taking a picture of your socks.
That's the second question?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. Excuse my jet lagness.
Thank you.
And thank you so much.
And thank you for doing what you've done.
I do my best.
Thank you. Thank you very much.